Hello, friends, and thanks for dropping in. So, last week I was starting to talk about the stress response and how that relates to the news consumption and social media consumption that we're all participating in on a daily basis. And I wanted to just take that a step further, talk a little bit more about how our stress response is being triggered and ways that we might actually reduce that in order for our health and well being. So, a major distinction that I wanted to make about the stress response is that our systems respond both to actual stressors, actual threats, and perceived threats. And this is a very important distinction. So, an actual threat would be, for example, I would say your landlord pounding on the door because you are 6 months late on rent. That would be an actual threat. Okay, your fear of not making rent or your fear of being homeless is a perceived threat. Now, our stress response is actually best designed, it is designed really to react to an actual threat, to get us out of danger, out of harm's way quickly. But the thing about today's modern culture is that we are often responding to countless perceived threats. They are not actually endangering us right here and right now, but they're in our minds throughout the day, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, and we're responding to them regularly. We're in stress a lot around perceived threats. So, like I just gave you the example of the landlord, it's tax season, so taxes are a perceived threat, and you might be thinking about the taxes and needing to get them done and how much am I going to owe, and there's a lot of anxiety around this, and yet the IRS is not pounding on your door saying you owe us such and yada yada, we're going to take your house away. That's not happening. That would be more of an actual threat. So I would also say that the coronavirus, COVID-19, is a perceived threat. Now, just bear with me because I'm sure immediately your response is, well, what are you talking about? It's a real virus. It can make me sick or my loved ones sick. It can, it can kill us. It's a real threat. Now, I'm not saying that it's not out there. I'm not saying that people aren't getting sick from it, very sick from it. What I'm saying though is that until it is actually infecting your body, it's a perceived threat. And that's one of the things that's so problematic about this pandemic is that it's kind of this invisible enemy that's out there all the time. It could be anywhere. And so people are living in response to a perceived threat many hours of the day. And of course, the more that you read news articles about it and the new strains, the new variants, and things like that, the more this perceived threat is leaching energy out of your system. The stress response was actually designed really to respond to a clear and present danger to get you out of harm's way quickly. It wasn't designed to respond to countless perceived threats throughout the day, all day, every day, for weeks on end, for months, for years on end. So that then when an actual threat comes along, we're exhausted. I mean, many people are suffering from pandemic fatigue, partly because of this leaching process that's happening, this generalized anxiety around the virus. Well, so what do we do about this? I mean, the simple answer is this. If there is no actual danger, actual threat right here, right now, you're okay. And so when you catch yourself feeling yourself tense up or walking around with a lot of anxiety, whether it's mild anxiety or just creeping stress, whatever you want to call it, I invite you to just plant your feet on the floor, take some deep breaths, anchor yourself in the present and just remind yourself that right here, right now, I'm okay. Everything is okay, because that's the truth. And when you have to deal with an actual threat, then you're going to be ready to do so. Your system is going to be resilient. Now, I'm going to talk more about this in future videos, because it is something that I feel like is happening for a lot of people all the time. These creeping anxieties, the creeping stress, the real actual threats versus the perceived threats. But if you can start to make that distinction in your own life, it can really have a huge effect on your mental well-being and your physical well-being. And it is so simple, and yet it's a practice. Just catching yourself. You feel the tension, you feel the anxiety right here, right now. Everything's fine. So I wanted to bring this up, it was jumping off of the discussion around news media, because I feel that many times we get on the media channels and social media as well, and we're bombarded with this information and opinions and charged emotions and things like that. And we're sort of taking that in, and we're letting it inform our reality. And so we are seeing threats everywhere, including on social media and including the news media. There's a threat every time you turn around. So again, making that distinction between actual threat and perceived threat. And if you're looking for a safe space where there are no threats, that's why I created my online community, Joie de Vivre. It's a place to come to be restored, to actually help your nervous system calm down, to remind you that everything's okay, so that you can stay grounded when things are kind of nutso on the outside. So drop in if you feel like it. I left the information in the box below. And in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you next week.